This is the real gag here. You pretended to be a person of color and you still didn't get a book deal? On this channel, we have talked about an author doing brownface, a journalist doing blackface, and now we have a writer doing yellowface. The trifecta has been complete. Finally, it's my turn to be hate crimed. And also, I won bingo. So the document exposing the writer for faking their race was shared the day that I posted my last video, which was about a journalist wearing blackface in order to write a book about race. And I just need to ask, can y'all give me a second to breathe? This is a PSA for white writers, okay? I honestly don't care if you know whatever you're doing is wrong at this point. Like, I'm not gonna try to change your mind. All I ask is that if you pretend to be a person of color for social clout, give it a minute before you get exposed so that I can properly time my videos. Or better yet, come up with something new. Change it up, because these videos are gonna get stale after a while. I don't even know if I should make a video about this because at this point it's getting redundant. But I figured I might as well because this person named herself Kim Chi, and that's just hilarious. So basically the situation is, last week, a Vietnamese writer named Lanchi posted a Twitter thread that I will link in my description below, and it shares proof that one of their writing peers tried yellowfacing while pitching their book in the hopes of getting a literary agent. This evidence includes tagging her story featuring Asian characters as own voices, which is a tag to indicate that you have the same identity as the characters that you're writing, and briefly having her name be Kim Chi. This proof has been outlined in the Google Doc that Lanchi put together, but people with iPhones had trouble viewing the images, so for your convenience, I will go through the document for you. I'll also share Kim's apology that I managed to screenshot before she deleted her account, and lastly, I'll share my own general reflections. And of course, every time someone out there is acting foolish in the writing community and book community, I must profit off of it, and in this case, it's reparations. So I want to thank today's sponsor, Lingoda. Lingoda is a language learning platform that helps you develop new skills in a new language. I studied Spanish when I was in high school and college, but I never really picked it up again afterward. Then about 2 years ago when I was traveling in Barcelona, I struggled to get by. But it's really hard for me to learn the language on my own because I'm always gonna procrastinate. If I don't have a schedule and I don't have other people to hold me accountable, then I'm so much less likely to do it. And that's why Lingoda makes this so much easier. They have actual classes that are live and online, and the online classes are 24/7. It's in a small group setting where I get to communicate with other people. There's native level qualified teachers that are guiding me, and they give personalized feedback throughout the journey. They have the Lingoda Language Sprint Challenge, which is a 60-day challenge of intensive focus. So it's great for if I have a trip coming up and I really need to learn it before my trip. There's 2 types of sprints. So the regular sprint is 2 months, 15 classes a month, and a 50% cashback or 30 class credits upon successful completion. Then there's the super sprint, which is also 60 days, but it takes 30 classes per month, and there's the 50% cashback or the 60 class credits upon completion. So I like that there's an incentive as well. Both the Lingoda sprint and the super sprint have been discounted for June exclusively for my followers. So that means even if you go to the website, you're not gonna see the discount. Or you can click on the link in my description, which is try.lingoda.com/withcindy, and save up to $150 upon your registration. And if you win the Lingoda Sprint Challenge, you can save as much as $638. So thanks to Lingoda for sponsoring, and now let's get back to the video. All right, let's get into the document. First, it starts off with, gasp, another white girl pretending to be a person of color, or just another Tuesday. Never in my life did I think I would have to do something like this, but here we are. I have been a moderator for a small but tight-knit writing Discord for 2.5 years now. On June 5th, 2024, I decided to kick out a member who had joined at the birth of the server during the AMMR9 event in December of 2021, because I believed that she was masquerading as a Korean American even though she was white. Now that I have proof that this is true, I decided to post this document to warn any other writing communities she might have been a part of, and to let some people who might consider her a friend to know that she might be lying to them. Her handles on Twitter and Discord are Kim the Kinda Good, and her name is Kim Christie, which she has mentioned publicly, so I don't feel the need to censor her name. So then we get to part 1, the comment that made me go, Every so often we do positivity passes. On April 26, 2024, I posted in the server that we'd be having a 2-month-long positivity pass. Week 1 was slotted to start on April 26th to May 5th. In this round of posters were myself, Kim Christie, and 3 other people. I posted a work in progress that doesn't have a proper title and it's just known as Butch Vietnam America in my head. It's about a young Vietnamese American girl named Thuy growing up in Oklahoma in 2009. She has a complicated relationship with her best friend and half half Korean, half white best friend Mina, but starts sort of dating a white and openly out theater kid named Angela. In the scene I posted, Angela introduced Thuy to her flamboyant theater and also white friend Ethan. I'll share the excerpt in Lanchi's writing, but basically this shows the main character being introduced to another person, and that person does a microaggression because that person was saying, your name is so pretty, where is it from? Main character says it's Vietnamese, and that person says, oh Vit, cool, I love pho. Kim Christie highlighted this comment and said, LMAO, OMG dude, why is this everyone's first instinct? I guess because we can't say, oh, you're a Vit, you guys kicked our ass in the war, nice job. So this was a comment that raised a red flag in Lanchi's mind. I personally wouldn't have blinked at this comment, but that's probably because my threshold for these things is different. Like, believe it or not, I actually give white people the benefit of the doubt. And I know that's very hard to believe because many people think I'm a reverse racist that discriminates against white people every time I talk about the systemic issue, but I am a lot more chill than you think. This is a comment that I feel like in silo, I really wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong with it, or that meant that Kim was like a bad person or anything like that, but obviously Lanchi had better instincts than me, because when you look at the bigger picture, you will see, once again, like Freitas Moon and Kate Corain, this pattern of liberal allyship where someone is familiar with racism and microaggression and knows it's wrong and will publicly denounce it is true until they can benefit from it behind the scenes. So Lanchi had reached out to their co-moderator for advice, but ultimately they decided not to send Kim a message about the comment because they didn't want to explain to her why that was like weird to say. And at this point, they mentioned they had forgotten that Kim had posed herself as Asian American because, and quote, every interaction I had with her read very much as a white woman. And so then we got to part 2, Jina Wu. I went about my life and decided to read the other author's work posted for week 1 of Posit Pass. Kim's was one of those. Unfortunately, I do not have access to this document any longer because I kicked Kim out of the server before and lost access to it. However, the premise of her pages were a main character named Gina who was cooking dinner, sausages and red bell pepper, for her mother who was watching a reality dating show and complaining about one of the contestants. There's banter, her mother poses that she should apply for the dating show, and in the final paragraph, for some reason, the main character says her own full name, Jina Wu. Jina Wu hit me like a truck because the entire passage did not read like an Asian American household, so I was not picturing an Asian American character. Secondly, Wu is absolutely not a Korean surname. If it was, it would be spelled W-O-O, not W-U. Okay, I don't want to unfairly give the benefit of the doubt to Kim, but I do want to bring up 2 things. One, I think it's fine for a writer to feature a character who is a different race. I don't believe in censorship or that people should only be allowed to write about themselves, but I do think that writers who decide to write about the different identities should do their due diligence and be prepared for skepticism among other people. Like, that just comes with the territory. If you decide to do this, you gotta own up to it and be really sure about it. So to be clear, we are fine with people writing Asian characters if they're not weird about it. And I say weird with a giant asterisk, and that asterisk is people who pretend they're Asian while writing Asian characters. The second point I want to bring up is that I think it's kind of iffy to gauge whether a text reads as Asian American or reads as white, especially if you consider the Asian diaspora, like if they were born in America from immigrant parents, or if they were adopted, or if they were mixed, or if they just don't have like the same experience as like the typical Asian household, because every household is different. So I do think that this could have been worded better, and I wish we had the actual passage to evaluate. But because Lanchi did end up finding out that, you know, this person was pretending to be Asian and was like trying to scheme her way to get an agent, I am still gonna trust their instincts here that whatever gut feeling that they had about Kim did turn out to be correct after all. So this is when they reached out to their co-moderator, and their co-moderator replied that they're gonna try to confirm something and said, when you sent that to me just now, I thought I remembered her saying her book was Own Voices, so I'm looking for it now. This is when they start to dig, and one of the tweets that they found is a pitch that Kim did for her book with the hashtag own. So basically the way that pitching works on Twitter is that in this format here for Kim's tweet, the top 2 titles are the titles that she's comparing her work to, which is typical for what writers do when they're pitching their book. They gotta compare it to other successful books out there so that they show that it's marketable to the agent. Kim also does 3 bullet points to give the general vibe of what features her book has. The first one says hashtag POC college couple. So both of the people in the couple are both people of color. Then there's a little blurb about what the story is about, hashtag DV Pit, which is the name of the pitching event online, hashtag A, which means it's an adult book, and hashtag own, which means it's an own voices book. The writer author of this book shares the same identity as the characters that are being featured. This tweet has since been deleted from her Twitter, but fortunately they were able to get screenshots. So the moderators on Discord did some more digging, but ultimately Lanchi decided that they would just have to outright ask, "Hello, I hope your Monday is going well so far. So for my DM, I just want to see if you would be comfortable having an open conversation about your cultural identity and background, because I think it will help inform my suggestion for the passage." 4 days pass and they send another message saying, "Just checking in on this." They sent that this morning. Kim doesn't reply until the evening. "Hi, I apologize for the late reply. My week has been filled with packing and last minute plans." "Sure, ask away. I might be offline for a week or two, but feel free to ask your questions." 2 days later, they ask, "Okay, what's your cultural identity and background?" So this was sent on May 12th and they did not get any response. They sent another message on June 3rd, which is a question mark, and still no response. They wait 2 more days and then they had to send a final message and kick her from the server and presumably put this Google Doc together. And now we get to part 3, which is the evidence here for catfishing. First, to establish Kim's identity as truly a white person, they noted that Kim Krishy was a right mentor-mentee in 2020 and submitted with a project called All the Time in the World. On the mentor website, there's a PDF file where you can see their summer program and you get to see a blurb of the mentees and a profile picture of them. I don't know why we're making a fuss here. Clearly Kim and I could be twins, but no, actually she is fully white, because in the old tweets that they were able to bring up, she has confirmed that multiple times. She says, "I'm pitching too, would love to swap retweets with a fellow Italian. I'm pitching, happy to support a fellow Italian as well. Which part of Italy are you from?" And then the third tweet, "Hi, I'm Kim. I write YA sci-fi and adult contemporary. I'm not sure I'm allowed a pot of gold because I'm Italian. But if I did find a pot of gold, I would open my Italian/Vietnamese fusion restaurant called Forget About It. Y'all can have a discount." Girl, you were Italian? That's like one of the spicy whites. You didn't even need to pretend to be Asian, because I, for one, stand as an ally to my Italian ex-peers. Maybe she did finally open her fusion restaurant. Maybe something was in the soup and the fusion worked a little too well and then she fused into being an Asian. I don't know. Some older tweets you can find is that in January 2021, Kim posted the mood board for the project that she had worked on. As you can see in the screenshot, all of the actors look like the M. Night Shyamalan movie adaptation of Avatar. It wouldn't be until later that she would update the mood board to look like the Netflix adaptation of Avatar. This happens in the fall of 2021, where Kim decides she wants to be a different race to really get a leg up in the publishing world. So she changes her profile picture and responds to a Korean American author in a pitch. I will show the profile picture that she has, but I'm going to censor the Asian person that's featured here for their privacy. But you can tell that even though I've censored her face, how much space it took up in the profile picture, while Kim is just like off to the side, just like scrunched up to the left. And you know, when you post a profile picture, it's gonna crop into a circle, so she's gonna be even more left out of it. It doesn't really make sense to post a profile picture of yourself, but you only choose a picture where half of your face is just cut off on the side here. But it works in having people assume that you're Asian without explicitly saying that you're Asian, so that you technically don't have to lie about it. She hacked the system. She found her way in. The slippery slope of the slanty-eyed sleuth. The delicate balance between an Italian and an Asian truly hangs between a few pixels. Damn, maybe I should have taken a page out of her book. Maybe if I had pretended to be a white woman online, more people would give me the benefit of the doubt every time I make a mistake. I should have just pretended to be Cindy Smith until you zoom in into like the corner of the picture, and then I just pop out the pixel like, surprise bitch, it's Cho Chink. Dating back to 2019, she has this habit of using that photo of her with her Asian friend during pitches and then changing it back when it no longer serves her. So in this screenshot, you can see that she replies to this writer who's trying to pitch their Caribbean book, and she writes, "I love Caribbean culture. Good luck." And that person replies, "Thanks, you too. I'm not certain where your heritage is, but you look Asian. I've always admired Asians and their culture." Other people who replied to Lanchi's Twitter thread also said that in the times that they interacted with Kim, they were also under the impression that she was Asian. So I'm just gonna cycle through a bunch of these tweets of her participating in these pitch events where she's using the profile picture of her Asian friend and her actual face is barely there. But then as soon as the pitch event ends, she changes her profile picture. Maybe one day a literary agent will want me as much as I want them. Girl, I don't know. If you want an agent that wants you as badly as you want them, I don't know if they would be willing to put in the equal effort of pretending to be a different race. And then by April of 2022, Kim changes her username to Kimchi and has changed her mood board to this. See, now we're getting into the good stuff. Now we're looking like a modern day Netflix show right here. He's a Korean med student. She's a black poli-sci grad. I like how you can tell from this tweet that at this point, you know, after endlessly pitching her story and trying to get agents to notice her and kissing ass to everybody else in these pitch events, she thinks to herself, I know, I'll swap out my characters to be people of color. That way, it's gonna be more alluring to agents, and I'm gonna call myself Kimchi. But girl, this is not diverse representation. This is diverse desperation. This time, she uses a Somalia and Korean flag in her username and the hashtag own tag. If you are not on Twitter, typically when people post their country flags in their name, it's an indicator of what countries they're from. The only exception I can think of is people posting the Palestine flag in support of Palestine, or if they are currently traveling there, they might show that flag with like an airplane emoji. But we know that Kim does not live in Somalia or in Korea because there's a tweet that says that she lives in Seattle and she's originally from Las Vegas. You can see in some of her other tweets that she's familiar with the concept of plausible deniability. So for example, another writer was asking that if their main character was bisexual but they're straight, is it okay to use the LGBTQ hashtag in their pitch even though it's not own voices? And I'm assuming someone named Cindy replied with an answer, and then Kim follows up with saying, Cindy's right. As long as you don't claim to be a member of the community, you can submit your work under the LGBTQIA label. Another writer is asking, how many hashtags do you recommend using when you're pitching? I have 6 hashtags including age category. 3 of the hashtags are author related, like hashtag own, POC, and IMM, which means immigrant. And Kim replies, I use about 5 and prioritize. My list goes Pit Mad, which is the pitch event, the age, YA, adult, middle grade, a genre or 2, and whether or not it's own/STEM. I actually don't know what STEM here means, but I'm sure someone can fill that in. I let my profile picture determine my POC status. That way I'm not taking up too much pitch space. Oh really? Is that the reason why? You're gonna let your profile picture of you scrunched up in the corner with your Asian friend in the center determine your POC status? Or are you gonna use the profile picture that's in this screenshot right here of a silhouette staring at a sunset? Which by the way is not even her, because when you do a reverse image search of the profile picture, it turns out to be a stock photo. So how's anyone actually supposed to determine whether you're a person of color? She purposely made that ambiguous in order to give her a leg up. At least in her mind, this was gonna be an advantage for her when pitching her book. That pretty much summarizes the Google Doc that Lanchi posted together. They also posted the thread on Twitter. Other people replied being shocked. Again, people who had previously interacted with Kim were under the impression that Kim is Asian. So it shows that Kim's plan had worked. And then like clockwork, we get an apology from her on her Twitter before she deletes her account. Hello world, there are a lot of accusations of finger pointing aimed at me and you deserve the truth. I'm going to be blunt. Yes, it is true. I deceived people with false implications, and for that I am deeply sorry. I am not deserving of the community's forgiveness, especially from those I offended or hurt. It was never my intention to write about a culture's lived experience. I set out, foolishly I know, to write books that feature the American experience first. My characters were intended to depict the melting pot of America, Americans who happen to be Taiwanese, Korean, Italian, etc. I realized how insensitive I was to decouple a character from their heritage. The own aspects of my pitches were not about race. Nevertheless, I broke all sense of decency when I implied and let others believe I belonged to a culture congruent with my characters. Once again, I am truly and deeply sorry to those who trusted me and considered me a friend/ally. You deserve better than to be lied to, which I am clearly guilty of. I know I don't deserve the community's forgiveness or open arms, but I do hope someday I will be worthy of them. I will remove myself from the writing community and from any groups affiliated with me so the healing process can begin. I want to point out the part where she says that her using the own hashtag was not about race. I think even in this apology, this is part of the plausible deniability. You can't just put own because you identified with some other aspect of the character, but the first bullet point that you're using when you pitch your book is that they are both people of color. Like, she very clearly knew what she was was doing. I also don't believe that she was trying to represent the melting pot of America, because if that were the case, then her original mood board wouldn't have been all white people. So that kind of seems like an excuse, but at least she admitted her intentions for the part about implying that she was a different race and letting people believe that. I just don't feel like it was necessary to use the melting pot excuse. Like, it's very clear from the way that the mood board had changed over the years when she wasn't getting her book picked up that she just wanted diversity points. She was desperate to get an agent and have her book published, and she believed that what people want is diversity. This is one of the tweets from last year that I found before she deleted her account. Today is my anniversary. I've been querying for 14 years. The process has gotten much harder. I've been close. I've struck out. I made great friends and lost many of them to success. They got agents, book deals. I fell behind. I reach out, they won't talk to me. One day. This is the real gag here. You pretended to be a person of color and you still didn't get a book deal? Girl, what was this even all for? It's like, damn, my career still hasn't started yet. Let me end it before it even begins with this final act of desperation. But you know what? She's gonna be fine. She's just gonna come back in a few years under a different name and like a profile picture of a drawing or something, and then just start over. I know it, you know it, she knows it, the world keeps turning, and more people are gonna keep on trying to do desperate tactics to get a book deal. Then I'm gonna make a video about it. Then people are gonna leave comments criticizing me for generalizing about white people because this isn't a white people thing and this was just one bad apple. And then we're gonna repeat the same thing over and over until like the end of time. But if you're gonna pretend to be a different race, I am asking you to please at least just consider the fact that I am trying to win bingo here, so I need you to change it up a little. But if you are gonna stick with yellowface, I wrote down a few suggestions for names. First suggestion I have, your first name can be Sue, last name, she. That could be kind of cute, you know? You could have a little sushi as your profile picture with like the anime expressions. You can just say that you really love sushi and that's why you made that your pen name, you know? Now, if you're a boy, consider this. First name, Tom, last name, Yam. You know, like the Thailand dish? Don't worry, I got you covered there if you need to go down the Southeast Asian route. Also, you can try some variations of the names Toby, Tommy, Thomas, Tony, and then say that your last name is Fu, so then your nickname can be To Boo. You see where I'm going there? See, I'm doing all the work for you. Wanda, and your last name is Tun, so then your nickname is Wan Tun. You can have your name be Cho Chang. Oh wait, sorry, somebody already took that. Okay, now all jokes aside, this is now the conclusion part of my video where I give some general reflections. I think when writers try to fake their race, especially when they do that while trying to get published, a large part of the reason why is desperation. And if you're on writing Twitter, you can see how badly people want to be published. They want to get noticed by an agent. They want to get a book deal. They constantly compare themselves to their peers. And I think to a lot of people who don't know how biased publishing actually is, it can very much seem like being a person of color is an advantage because it gets mentioned so much in the industry. But just because publishing talks about diversity doesn't mean it's actually diverse. If you are a writer, you'll see a lot of literary agents out there talk about how they value representation in stories and that they want to prioritize own voices. And you might think, damn, I have less of a chance as a white person because that's what these agents are talking about and putting in their wish list. But that's not true. Look at the list of authors that those literary agents represent, because a lot of times the majority of those authors in their list are still white. And a lot of times the own voices aspects of the authors that these agents represent are still predominantly queer white people and not queer people of color. And if you're a reader in the book community, you've probably seen tons of people hyping up books with diversity or making lists of diverse authors, and you might think, damn, these are the only books that are selling, so I'm gonna have even less of a chance. But again, that's not true. Look at the New York Times bestsellers list. Look at how so many of these bestseller lists are still predominantly white authors, especially those who have been on the bestsellers list for multiple weeks in a row. I think when you are in a bubble of writing Twitter or in the online book community, you start to believe that all of these people people hyping up diversity is a reflection of reality, but it's not. All this talking is just a response to the reality that these groups of people are still in the minority. These advantages that you're making up in your head is just social clout, and that shit isn't even real. What's real is book sales, and those numbers speak very differently. Stop worrying about identity politics and performative allyship and start worrying about your shitty writing instead, because you could be like this person who has been querying and kissing ass for 14 years and still didn't get a book deal after trying the diversity tactic. Being rejected or not getting a book will never be because you're white. It will never be the reason. I feel like logically most people know that white people are still in the majority and are systematically in the advantage, but they still have this feeling in their gut that maybe if they were a person of color, if they just had like a sprinkle of oppression, they can get the perks. But let me tell you that whatever perk you think you're gonna have is just social clout. You don't actually want to be a person of color. First of all, even if you got a book deal, you're gonna get paid less than your white peers, statistically speaking. Second of all, the type of stories that people are gonna expect you to write will be extremely limited. You are gonna have to only write about the trauma of your people in some ham-fisted way. You're gonna have to write about being a person of color instead of being a person. You can't just write a fun little fantasy. You have to write an Asian fantasy. The metric system is gonna have to be based on your culture, and the conflicts that your characters will go through have to be based on generational trauma. This is assuming that you even know your culture to write about it well in a competent way. If you're in the diaspora, you might not even be close to your culture. And then you'll stress about whether you're Asian enough or Black enough or Latina enough, or if you're just pandering to white people and selling out. And then when you do get published, people are gonna argue about whether your representation is good or bad. And if your book turns out mediocre, then it's gonna be an example for why people of color shouldn't be given a chance. And if your book turns out to be good, then people are still gonna say that you only got the book deal because of diversity in the first place, not because of any actual skill. And if you show any signs of being annoying or making a mistake, then people will attack your character more harshly than they would with any white person. And even other people of color in your community are gonna resent you for taking their place, and they fear that there's only one quota for one type of person of that culture. So then you're gonna be struggling to be seen equally as white people while trying to deal with the competitiveness of other people of color. And then when you market your book, because you're gonna have to market your book due to the limited budgets that people have for publishing, you're gonna have to deal with people hating you based on the color of your skin. People are gonna send you harassment and threats solely because they hate people who look like you. And you can't hide from it because you still have to market your book, or else you won't have a career. That's why you don't wanna be a person of color. Whatever advantage you think you have, it ain't worth it. You do not know what authors of color go behind the scenes. I have talked to people who look like they were doing so well and they have it so easy, when in actuality, they have dealt with so much BS in private. As you can see, it has now gotten dark in my apartment. I'm sure that this video is long enough as it is, so I think I'm gonna end it here. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. My next video is gonna go back to regular content. I'm gonna do the mid-year freakout tag, so we'll go back to talking about books, but I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Steady looking like 100 racks times 10. Need to say more, yeah, probably. Man, I've been working at it like an addict, my friends know. Really bad at I've been, yeah. Go ahead, ask if you wanna know. Don't need to chit chat when I'm